Oh, all right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alyssa Fine. I am the Wellness and Diabetes Program Coordinator for the Cowlitz Tribe. I think I probably know the majority of you, but for those that don't know me, I'm based in Longview with the medical clinic here. I'm a registered nurse and certified diabetes care and education specialist. And super excited to be leading this session today for you all. This is the fourth of a four-part nutrition seminar on eating to help how food affects blood pressure. So we're going to go over different ways to do that. If you missed any of the previous three, you're in luck. We are restarting the series starting next month. So look for an email for that. Or if you just haven't had enough of us, you can attend again. It is open to everyone. So if you have family or friends or anyone else you know in the community who you think would benefit from this class, we hope you'll share it with them. It really is better when we have more people. So please share and please attend again if you'd like. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. And if someone could just give me like a thumbs up that you're seeing my PowerPoint, or, yep, okay, thank you. Got a couple of those, I love it. So we're gonna talk about heart healthy eating for life today, and this is what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna go over some stuff that we've touched on before, just as a reminder, nutrition and blood pressure facts. We're going to talk about fats and oils. There's always a lot of questions around those that can be really complicated. We're going to touch on different vitamins and minerals. We'll talk about some of the areas where people get caught up a lot and face a lot of challenges, like healthy snacks and dining out. That's going to be a great session where we talk about how to make good choices when we're not in our own home environment where we normally are making those choices. So all these are good topics. I think we're going to be great. So we're going to start by talking about nutrition and blood pressure. And this is going to feel like a review for those of you who've been attending, but maybe you'll learn something new still. So food choices, we know that food choices can affect our blood pressure. Limiting salt, limiting certain types of unhealthy fats, which we're going to talk about, and sweets in your diet are all important aspects of this. So this is a depiction of what a healthy eating pattern looks like. A lot of you have probably seen this as my plate or my native plate. Lots of fruits and vegetables, fresh or frozen, a good serving of whole grains, some healthy protein, avoiding some of the fattier meats like beef and pork, using healthy oils when we have a choice, and a glass of water on the side. So a variety of foods from all these groups. That's what's recommended. This is your most basic approach to building a healthy plate. And we know from previous sessions, I'm sure you guys can recite this, salt, unhealthy fats, and added sugars can all contribute to a higher blood pressure. So, and that hot dog on the left-hand side there, that's the one I'm looking at. I got my eye on that hot dog. It's full of sodium. We know that it's full of unhealthy fats most likely, and oftentimes also had added sugar. So it's kind of a triple whammy there. So finding good, healthy replacements can be really helpful. So that's what we don't eat. This is what we want to eat more of. Variety of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, nuts and seeds, which also have some of those healthy fats in them. And then some of those like non-tropical vegetable oils, olive oils, canola oil, vegetable oil. Those are all kind of your healthy fats. So the ones that are liquid at room temperature are going to have more of what we call the unsaturated fats versus the saturated fats, right? So we'll, I believe, go into that more later, but that's what we're talking about when we talk about healthy fats. So can anyone tell me, and I think there's some people in here who've heard this before, but can anyone tell me what a calorie is? and either chat or speak up. I'm trying to find my chat. It's like disappeared here somewhere.
Yeah, what calories are the things that sneak into your closet and make your clothes smaller?
Right, that's it. That's a good one. I've not heard that. Calories are what you worry about tomorrow, right? I like that. Yeah, Gretchen, unit of energy. Thank you. Yeah, calories. If we were cars, calories are our gas, right? They're a unit of energy. We burn it, and that's how we get our energy. But what we really need to be aware of is that if we take in too many of those calories, we tip that balance, and that those calories can be saved as fat, and that's when we put on weight. So our calorie intake should be balanced in versus out if we want to maintain a weight. If we want to lose weight, we need to make sure that we tip that calorie balance so that we're taking in fewer calories than we're burning. So we do this through all those healthy choices we just talked about, you know, choosing more fruits and vegetables, choosing more lean meats, but also by portion control, right? So using that 9-inch plate, making sure that we have mostly vegetables on that plate and not as many starches or proteins or other things to kind of balance that out. So we need to always be concerned about calorie intake, because keeping a healthy weight is also really important for blood pressure control, among other things. So let me get back to that. Okay, so we're going to go through what these portions might look like throughout the day. It can be really hard to kind of conceptualize what we're talking about when we say eat a healthy amount, eat the right portion. So we often talk about using our hands or our fists as like sort of a shortcut. We can also measure. So I've got some measurements up here. So we recommend about 6 to 8 servings of starches per day. This might look different if you have diabetes, if you're doing carb counting. So always talk to your doctor or your dietitian or your diabetes educator about this if you have questions. But generally speaking, for the general population, 6 to 8 servings per day. And so that looks like a slice of bread, a small tortilla, a half a cup of rice, a half a cup of oatmeal, a medium potato. So that's about the size of your fist if you held it up. That's about going to be about that half cup amount. So that's what we're looking at that picture. 6 to 8 of those, and ideally spreading it throughout the day, right? Not having it all in one meal. Fruits and veggies, so about 4 servings of fruit and 5 servings of vegetables. What does that look like? That can be hard. So oftentimes we talk about opening up the palm of our hand for some of this stuff, so, or that fist again for a half a cup of broccoli, carrots, mushrooms, or cucumbers, or things like that. Might be a half of a large zucchini, a half, not like the zucchinis you get at the end of summer, like one you might get in the store that's large, a half of a bell pepper, a cup of spinach or lettuce. And then for the fruit, it's like a medium apple, pear, or nectarine. So I like to think of that, a medium is like my fist size. So if I was to hold up my fist, that's like a medium. It's like the size of a baseball. Some of those apples can be really large. That might be more than 1 serving. About 16 grapes or 4 large strawberries would fit into that category. How many of you feel like you're getting the recommended intake of fruits and veggies per day? No, I'm seeing a no. It's hard. It's when you think about it, especially the vegetables, 5 servings of vegetables or 4 servings of fruit. Yeah, anyone else? Any thoughts on that, getting that in?
So does this mean you're supposed to have 4 servings of fruit and 5 servings of vegetables? Okay. Well, I cut way back on my fruit, so it's not near enough.
Yeah, and you might get, yeah, no, it's not and or, it is and. So yeah, that's a great question, Rebecca. It looks like a couple of people had that question. But yeah, lots of salads with a lot of veggies, 4 large strawberries, Leo. Yeah. Yeah, and so like 16 grapes, And you might get it in a juice or a smoothie. That might be a way to get it in. If you're not getting it, be a little bit careful with that. Make sure you're not adding too much juice or other things into that have a lot of concentrated sugar, even if it's natural sugar. So if you're going to do that, make sure you're going heavy with those veggies and stuff in the smoothies or the juice. Start thinking about ways. Yeah, you can get some of it through V8. I'd say try to eat the majority of it versus drinking it. Yeah, veggies with breakfast is a great way to get them in. I was just going to ask Kristen, thanks for prompting. How could you, if you're saying, no, I'm not getting these in, either the veggies or the fruits, how could you sneak those in more throughout the day? Because it is hard. 5 servings, if you're not eating veggies with breakfast, that's a hard amount to get in. So, and Kristen, if you want to share how you're getting them into breakfast, I think people usually have questions about that. But any ideas anyone wants to share about sneaking these in? Spinach in an omelet, perfect. Yeah, eggs is a great place to add in some veggies. Savory bowls, yep. You know, we can eat oatmeal savory, right? We don't have to eat it sweet every time. So we could make oatmeal like a grain or like a quinoa bowl with some veggies on it for breakfast. Fruit and vegetable salads. Yep, I love it, Tammy. Yep. So rather than putting your protein on rice, you could put it on a bed of greens. That's a good way of thinking about that. Broccoli quiche, yep, or those little frittatas. And you can get fruit into your breakfast through the similar ways too, right? You could put some berries on your oatmeal or your overnight oats.
I really like a breakfast stir fry where you stir fry leftover brown rice with lots of onions, but also add in either asparagus or that's the hard part, kale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, that's great. Asparagus, kale, you could put in a little broccoli, you could put in some spinach, you could put in some carrots, green beans. And you could stir fry that with rice, or if you want a more like traditional breakfast, you could cut up a little medium. You can have your medium potato, right? That's your starch, and then add the veggies to it and do like a breakfast scramble type thing, and even add some eggs for some protein.
Yeah, sometimes instead of the rice, I do chopped up Yukon Golds.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, great.
They're a little better on the diabetes than the regular potatoes.
Yeah. All right.
And
so
my good strawberries are right now. And so I add like 2 to my salad and there's just a little pop of flavor.
Yeah.
But seeing this, I know now that's not enough.
Maybe 4 to your salad. Yeah, that's great. And again, for people with diabetes, talk to your diabetes educator, your nutritionist, make sure that you're staying within the carbs too. So you want to spread out your fruit with your starches too. Ooh, I like that, Nikki. The breakfast wrap, some veggies in there. Yeah. So think about, and then snacks, right? I didn't hear a whole lot of snacks, but we can use veggies and fruits as great snacks too. Sugar snap peas, carrots, apples, oranges, grapes. What a great snack to throw with you and take for the day. So some ideas to try to get in. I knew that probably most of you would say, I don't think I'm doing that. So it's important to try to get in as many of those as we can. We're going to move on to protein. So most Americans do tend to get enough protein, even though it's something a lot of people try to focus on getting more of. So 6 or fewer is what's recommended. So we don't need any more than 6 for sure. And a serving is pretty darn small, right? It's an ounce of meat or fish. It's an egg. It's 1 slice of deli meat, a half a cup of cooked beans, or a half an ounce of nuts. So pretty small. I think we like to think of like, you probably shouldn't have much more meat on your plate than like the size of a deck of playing cards. So that's kind of like a serving of meat for a meal. So you're probably getting enough of this. We'll talk more about how you make lean protein choices, but we're talking about like, again, chicken, fish, game meat like elk or deer meat are good choices for this. Be careful with the deli meat. It's on there, but we know that that can be a pitfall for sodium too. And then low-fat dairy, I like to make sure everyone knows that this is totally optional. You do want to make sure you're getting enough calcium and things like that in your diet if you're not eating dairy. But a lot of Native people are lactose intolerant, so just be aware of that and don't feel like I'm telling you to absolutely do this. You might be able to eat yogurt or cottage cheese even with some lactose intolerance, but do whatever you're comfortable with. If you do want to add it in, keep it to about 3 servings. And again, be aware of the sodium in the cheese. And 1.5 ounces of cheese, right? So 1 serving of cheese, that's your thumb. That's all that is. We tend to eat a lot more than that when we eat cheese. But it is a cup of yogurt or a glass of milk. Try to keep that to low fat. The fat in the milk is also what we call saturated fat, not a heart healthy fat, really. All right, so that's kind of each category and about how much you should have. Any questions or comments about that section? And make sure you mute if you're not talking, if you can. What are some good dairies that's not full of salt? Does anyone have any ideas? Which dairy products are lower in sodium? Yogurt, I love that example. Yes, thank you. And we want to aim for low-fat yogurt when we can. Any other ideas? Yeah, you know, cottage cheese should be fairly low. It's not something I know off the top of my head. Is that something you've looked at, Leo, or you have a question mark too? So we might have to, maybe Nikki can look up how much salt is in some cottage cheese, because I was wondering that too. Believe it or not, I don't have every nutrition label in my brain, although I'm working on it. It has a lot. Okay, Jeannie, I was wondering. It is a cheese, you know, and we know that cheese has a lot. So yogurt, I would say that regular milk might be another option, you know, if you wanted to have some skim milk. Okay, thanks, Jeannie. Over 800 milligrams of serving. So that's about half of what we want to eat in a day maximum, probably. Okay, so we've got yogurt, we've got milk. Any other dairy suggestions? That's probably what I got on the top of my head, but if I come up with something else, I'll share it later, and feel free to drop it in the chat if you find something. Oops. So we're going to go on to where there is a lot of salt again. So this is something you've probably seen at every one of our sessions so far. We have some major sources in our diet, and we know that reducing our sodium can reduce our risk of high blood pressure, which can reduce our risk of heart disease and stroke. And that most of our sodium, as you can see from this image, comes from processed and restaurant foods. So based on what we've talked about so far, what are some ways that you are working to reduce sodium in your diet that's worked for you?
Make a homemade soup so you control your salt intakes.
Love it. Yep. So make more of your food at home, right? Like if you're not going out to restaurants, we'll talk about how to make good choices at restaurants today when we do go out. But if you make more at home, you will have less sodium. Perfect, Lynette. Thank you. Tammy, yes, a lot of fresh whole foods, right? Like if we get if we get fresh vegetables or frozen, no salt added vegetables, oftentimes it has less sodium than the canned varieties. Yeah, if it doesn't have a label, then there probably was no salt added to it. Awesome. Spice swaps, so doing herbs and spices rather than adding salt to your meals. limiting packaged and processed foods. You guys have been listening, or you were probably brilliant even before you started coming. So, but I love it.
I have just started buying the food online, like from Walmart, and I put like no salt, and a whole bunch of products pop up. Like I just
Cool.
bought ketchup with, or yeah, ketchup. Well, no salt, no sugar, but there's like, you just push like low salt or whatever, and then all the products already pop up. So you
What
can
a
see the
cool hack.
pictures and everything.
That's awesome, Drew. That's such a great little hack. Thank you. I did not know you could do that, but yeah, that's like the high-tech version of using a nutrition label and having someone sort it out for you already. So that is a great time saving. Thank you.
Well, years ago, they used to have like little yellow tags on the products in Fred Meyer. I don't know if they still do, because I used to shop for a man who couldn't have any salt. And he always told me, well, look for the yellow tags. I don't know if they still do that or not, but that was 20 years ago.
I'm not familiar with the yellow tags. I'll have to pay attention next time I'm in the store, but if anyone has seen those lately, speak up. But that's a great hack. Thank you. Yeah, so nutrition labels. Okay, Jeannie says that maybe Winco has color coded. That's cool. Eating at home more, eating more fresh food, less processed food, limiting some of the foods that we see on the slide here. So you guys are doing tons of great things. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so heart healthy fats. These are some examples of fats that we consider heart healthy. Now, all fats do contain a good amount of calories per gram, so we do want to still use them judiciously and in limited quantities when we can, but getting good heart healthy fats into our diet is really good for us, and limiting the less healthy fats is also important. So these are some examples of heart healthy fats and some sources of those. So olive oil and avocado has the monounsaturated fat. Polyunsaturated fat can be found in nuts and seeds, and omega-3 fats, which you've probably heard of as well, are especially found in nuts and fish products like salmon and tuna. So those are some examples of those. You'll find that most healthy fats either come from nuts or plants or are liquid at room temperature. That's why I remember them. So unsaturated fats are typically liquid at room temperature, whereas the fats that aren't as heart healthy are solid at room temperature, like lard or butter, those types of things. And that takes me to my next slide. So saturated fat we want to decrease. That's found in things like beef, lamb, pork, poultry, especially with the skin. The skin is very high in that. Butter, cheese, whole milk. And then palm oil and coconut oil often confuse people because those do come from plants, but they are high in saturated fats, so something to try to limit. Trans fat is even worse than saturated fat. It is added to a lot of these processed and baked goods, so we want to make sure that that's decreased. A lot of products don't have it anymore, so you'll only see it fairly rarely, but you might find it in things like donuts or baked goods, like cakes or pie crust or biscuits. And the old stick margarine would have had it in it as well. So that's really where you want to focus, is decreasing these unhealthy fats and increasing the healthy fat choices. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? The fats or questions?
Having trouble with
Oh. I thought I heard Franklin, but then he disappeared. Anyone have any comments or questions about the different types of fats? Feel free to speak up or put it in the chat. Yep. Oftentimes you just need to read the labels, like Jeannie said. Becoming proficient at label reading is really important. It might seem kind of overwhelming when you first do it and you go to the grocery store. You might be like, I'm here forever and why am I taking so long? But once you get used to which products fit into what you're looking for, you'll be a lot more comfortable with that. Okay, Leo, staying away from those trans fats, that's excellent, because trans fats really have no benefit at all. Having a little bit of saturated fat in your diet was you know, as expected, and we're going to have it. Trans fat we do not need as people. Yes, your coconut oil was liquid the other day because we're probably, what was it, 100 degrees out? We were no longer living at room temperature. Yeah, peanut butter can have a lot of different additives. So peanuts have a lot of those healthy fats, and it's a good source of that. But as Jeannie points out, you can have a lot of sugar or other stuff added, palm oil, salt, things we don't need. So looking for ingredient labels that just say peanuts as the ingredient, that's all you should have in your peanut butter ideally, or look to limit the other ingredients if that's not available. Good, these are all really good reminders and thoughts. And I hope everyone's coconut oil is back to room temperature now and we're not melting anymore. Yeah, self-ground peanut butter should be good, Gretchen. It should just have peanuts. That's what peanut butter should have. All right, so moving on from fats. So you might have heard that we eat a rainbow of foods, different colors of fruits and vegetables. That's because when we do that, we get a variety of different vitamins and minerals. So the best way to meet our nutrient needs is to really eat a rainbow of different fruits and vegetables. It also makes our plates look really pretty. So that's really important to have a colorful plate. And the one we're not going to go into detail on all these today. We really don't have time. I'm sure you guys have questions about what these vitamins do and everything and different minerals. And there's a lot of information out there. But what I really want to focus on is potassium. And you've heard us talking about potassium throughout this series because eating enough potassium can help reduce the effects of sodium, which can help our blood pressure. So it relaxes the blood vessel walls and it opens up those arteries. And that's good for our blood pressure because when we think about blood pressure, we can think about pipe pressure, right? Just like our pipes in the walls, when we have more opening, that pressure decreases for the same amount of fluid. So it's recommended we get about 4,700 milligrams of potassium each day. Anyone want to guess on average how much Americans consume? You think we
Not
get a lot
enough.
Not enough. Yeah, it's not enough. We get about 2640 milligrams a day of potassium. We're supposed to get about double that almost. So we need to eat more potassium. We don't want to supplement it usually. So talk to your doctor definitely before supplementing. It's not something we want to get through supplements. We want to get it through a healthy diet. Because potassium supplements can hurt your kidneys. So we want to be careful with that. But if we get it through eating a variety of foods, we can do it in a safe way. So, oops, I forgot I have a slide that answers that. So that's what we got. Definitely not optimal. Before I go to the next slide that has the answer, what are good sources of potassium? Anyone remember any good sources?
Mushrooms.
Mushrooms. Mm-hmm.
They're higher than potatoes.
Potatoes. Yep. Bananas. Yep. Bananas always comes up. Yeah, and you can use potassium salt sort of as a salt substitute. Squash. Yeah, I believe that squash does have a good source of potassium. That's not something that I have on my list, but I could definitely check that. Spinach, leafy greens in general, sort of. All right, lentils, legumes. Yep, all legumes. Jeannie, that's a good one. See, I even have to refer to my notes. This is not something we talk a lot about, but it's really important if we're not getting enough of it. But also, you'll see that a lot of them come from these vegetables and fruits that everyone sort of said, I'm not getting quite enough of that every day.
Peas and cucumbers.
Peas and cucumbers. Yeah, Yeah, maybe. Those aren't on my list, but I'd have to check on those, how much is in those. Spinach for sure, sweet potatoes, yes. Yogurt or dairy products, yes. Salmon and broccoli, both, all those are good. Okay. So those are some of those. I didn't hear anyone bring up the fish, the seafood, like the salmon, the mackerel, the halibut, tuna, and snapper. Avocados, again, legumes. Tomatoes actually are a pretty good source. And other fruits like cantaloupe, dates, nectarines, and oranges are also good sources of potassium. So, yeah, possibly nuts. I don't have that on here either, but I'd have to look if nuts are good in potassium. I think it's mostly, yeah, I could look. That's, or maybe Nikki can look at for nuts and cucumbers. I'm not sure about. But again, if you go back to that plate, right? Like that first plate we had, and how much vegetables and whole grains and things that we want. If we're doing that and we're getting those number of servings, we're going to be a lot more likely to get enough potassium in our diet. So variety of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes, lentils, beans, and things like that, and those healthy fish. All right, so another question for you guys. Let's say you wanted to snack on some of this stuff. What are some examples of some healthy snacks? Because often we reach for the potato chips or maybe the donuts, the things that are easy. What might you snack on for some healthy nutrient-rich snacks? Yeah, almonds, perfect, love it. Leo, I think you were talking about potassium for acorn squash, but what a creative snack idea. Any other snack idea? Carrots and celery. Yep, that's a great one. Gretchen.
Snap peas.
Snap peas. Yep. And popcorn's a whole grain. We just have to make sure we don't pile it with the butter and the unhealthy fats, right? Or the salt. So finding maybe that we talked about nutritional yeast in the past, adding that on. Okay, so cucumber, green peas are both good sources of potassium. So that's good. Thanks for checking on that, Nikki. Definitely not something I have in my brain just sitting there. So yeah, fruits, veggies, nuts, mix in to your yogurt, something fun, which could mean something different to all of us. I like that.
Your different bell peppers.
Different bell peppers. Yep, and if you wanted to add any protein or legumes, which again, we just learned are high in potassium, to these great snacks, you could dip in some hummus.
Apples and peanut butter.
Apples and peanut butter, yep, perfect.
Or bananas and peanut butter.
Yeah, for some kind of fruit and some peanut nuts or peanut butter, hummus and veggies, roasted chickpeas, yes. Cut veggies for a quick snack. I think I missed a question from Gretchen. Kale chips can be healthy, Gretchen, if they're not made with like tons of oil added to them in the right way, but you can make them at home and you can make them healthy. You also have to make sure if you're buying them, there wasn't a lot of salt added. Yeah, I like Kristen. I agree. The prep stuff. So
a hard-boiled egg.
Hard-boiled egg, yeah. Okay, Gretchen. Well, I know you won't be snacking on kale chips, but it's a good question. Maybe someone else here is. Yeah, those are all really good options. So I'll just go through a couple that I have here. I think we touched on most of them. So if you're looking for something crunchy, the apple, carrot, celery, maybe some brown rice cakes. Whole grain crackers. What are some of the most common brands of whole grain crackers?
Ritz.
So Ritz might have some version of whole grains crackers. I would be careful with those. Sometimes they add a lot of this unhealthy fat. So just read those ingredients, but I think there is a whole grain version of Ritz, but the normal Ritz are not whole grain. Those would be like a white flour cracker. Wheat thins, yes. Rebecca, I'm not sure what that is, but I would love to hear more about it.
Oh, yeah. Our family's been eating it since this little kid. It's a Middle Eastern cracker, and it's sometimes it has sesame seeds on top, but it is 100% whole wheat, and it's just very flavorful and crispy and crunchy. And you find it in the cracker section, and along with like wasa ones, those are good too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
the akmag is a very old recipe.
Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing that with us. Whole grain goldfish. Triscuits are whole grain, Jeannie. Yep, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, you do want to look for low salt, Leo. That's for sure. Some do have a lot of sodium. It might not be the best choice for you, so look at the sodium content. But sometimes we do want, you know, something crunchy like a cracker or a chip. But it's going to be healthier to eat a whole grain cracker versus, you know, something that's like a chip or something like that. So you could dip it into some salsa. I like the Good Thins corn ones to dip into salsa. The nut thins, yeah, Tina. Great. So those are all examples of crunchy snacks. Okay, sometimes we might be in the mood for chewy, unsalted sunflower seeds, maybe some whole grain toast with peanut butter, some unsalted almonds, dried fruit. Make sure that if you're getting dried fruit, it's just the fruit with no added sugar. For people watching their carb intake, be careful with the dried, or calorie intake too, be careful with the dried fruit as well. It's really easy to eat a lot of that, more so than the fresh fruit. So I always recommend fresh, but sometimes we want something a little chewy, so dried fruit without added sugar can be good. And then sweet, again, some more dried fruit. Frozen bananas or berries, that's great for the summertime, is maybe instead of eating some ice cream, we could, you know, freeze a banana. That's always nice. Some fresh fruit, low-fat yogurt with fruit, like Jeannie was saying, mix-ins to make it a little sweet, especially if you can get some plain yogurt. That's always good. And then we know that maybe, yeah, a serving of dark chocolate, Jeannie says, mixed into the yogurt. So maybe that's your way of getting your sweet fix. That's awesome. And then our thirst quenchers. So we know that soda or pop, you know, is not probably the best option. So infused water is great for the summertime, different sparkling waters. There's so many out there now. Low-fat milk or like unsweetened tea or coffee are good choices for that as well. Okay, before we move on, snacks. Any other good ideas that came up as we were talking through them? Any more additions or thoughts or questions on snacks? Anyone have any new ideas that they're going to try that someone shared here that they're like, yes, that's what I'm going to try?
I do have a question.
Okay.
For crunchy, I've been buying the unsalted tortilla chips, and I know those that doesn't mean they don't have any salt. The recipe of the chips itself is fake salt. They're just not salted.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just kind of wondering how healthy a choice that is overall. I'm hoping it's good because I want crunchy.
Yeah, and again, remember, we're not saying everything's off limits here, right? It's about the amount that you have and when you have it. Tortilla chips, the positive is that they're often made out of corn, right? And corn is a whole grain. The downside, like you said, is usually a lot of salt, and they're often deep fried. So you want to look at that aspect as well as how they're made, if they're baked or they're fried, and how much salt. Those would be and then how many calories if you're watching that. So those would be the things I would look at. And unless, without looking at the nutrition label, it's hard to say like how it compares to a wheat thin or something. But what I've found is that I can use those corn Good Thins, which are whole grain crackers, and use that as a salsa dip and satisfy that crunchy. But it's probably mostly about portions and how often you're having it too.
You know,
If you have an air,
difference because I'm getting the Garden of Eaton kind, and whereas I noticed the wheat thins have a lot of sugar in them. So I'm thinking this might be better.
sorry, say that one more time about, what was your question?
The brand might make a difference because I'm getting the Garden of Eden kind, and
Oh,
I noticed that wheat thins have a lot of sugar in it.
okay. Mhm.
So
Yeah, so the brand may make a difference. So yeah, that's why I say like the nutrition label is going to be your friend. Read it and see what it says, because and everyone on here is going to have slightly different nutritional needs, right? Like so if you like I've said multiple times, diabetes, you know, you might be watching your carbs differently than someone without. Someone trying to lose weight might be watching their calories, you know, differently. So yeah, I would just read the labels, but those would be the things that I would look for. Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. Lynette, I think you were going to say something. Sorry.
That's okay. If you have an air fryer and if you have the low carb tortilla wraps, you can cut those with your pizza cutter, spray a little bit of your vegetable oil on them for about 3 to 5 minutes on the air fryer part of it. And you can make your own chips and not have the extra salt on them. And they're pretty flavorful.
Nice. That's a good tip. I've never tried that, so that sounds like a great solution. The
Well,
more we
as a
can use it-
diabetic, I have to watch my intake on those. And my son-in-law just became a diabetic or diagnosed as a diabetic. So I'm trying to give him some healthier snacks to do instead of the corn chips,
Nice.
Frito corn chips and
Mhm.
the bad dips and stuff that he likes to eat.
Right. That's
So-
great. Yeah.
But
Thank
if you have air fryers, they have all kinds of great recipes online, and there's also a book for different recipes for the air fryer to make them healthy.
Thank you. Okay, and then Jeannie shared her little recipe for making their own bread or wrap out of lentil or oats. Franklin was wondering about sun tea. That's a great option as long as you don't add a bunch of sugar to it. as a great healthy drink. All right, so we're going to move from snacking, which is I know often a challenging thing for a lot of people, to eating out, which is also really challenging. And we know that we're going to almost always have healthier options when we eat at home, right? We've gone over this multiple times. Even if we eat the exact same dish at home versus out, when we make it at home, we can typically make it in a way that's much healthier. So eating out can be a real challenge, but it's the reality. Sometimes we have to eat out because we're traveling, or sometimes we want to eat out to be with friends, but maybe we still want to stay on track with our food choices. So I want to ask you all, what makes it hard for you to make healthy choices when you eat away from home?
Most foods are fried and high in sodium.
Okay, yeah, so a lot of fried choices high in sodium. Yeah, that's for sure. Portions are big. Yep. No accurate nutritional info. Yeah, sometimes we are invited to places and we might not be able to pick. Maybe it's our friend's choice or a family choice, and we have to work with what's on the menu. It's not all the options we would like to see. I know that sometimes my friends sigh when they have to take me out. They're like, are you really going to eat here? Because I think you're going to have problems. All right, those are all really good challenges. And yeah, whether it's a sit down place or more on the go can make a difference. So I think Jeannie's saying that they might say no outside food, but maybe you can sneak them in. Is that what you're saying? Oh, you do not have to sneak it in, so you're allowed to bring it in. Okay, yeah, and maybe everything's like Ramona says, that's all a challenge, but then we have to bring it in beforehand. Yeah, but so I think what Jeannie's saying, they might discourage you from bringing it in, but you can. So it might be hard to navigate those those situations when we're out. Yeah, just limited choices. So does anyone, okay, that's good to know, Jeannie. Way to advocate for yourself. So you can absolutely, you know, say, no, this is a healthy choice because I need a healthy choice. Because we all know movie theater popcorn is probably not the healthy popcorn choice we were talking about earlier that Leo brought up. Okay, so do any of you have experience navigating some of these challenges? What has worked for you before? Okay, so asking for things on the side, yes. And don't be afraid to ask for that kind of thing. Sauces often have a lot of added sugar, added salt, and a lot of unhealthy fats. So asking for sauces on the side and controlling the amount you put on is a great option. Any other ideas that work? What has worked for you? No bun or different bun options. Yeah, you can often get hamburgers on a lettuce wrap, for example, now. Yep, you can ask like, oh, I don't want those French fries, right? I want a vegetable instead or a salad. And that's usually doable. A la carte appetizers, smaller sizes. Yep. Yeah, dressing on the side with your salads and maybe eating a salad as a main dish. What a great way to get in all those veggie choices for the day. Yeah, portions, right? We know that portions are a problem. So if we have half packaged up before we even get the meal, then we're not tempted to overeat. These are all great ideas for sure. All right. Yes, smaller plate. So I love this idea. You get a side salad or a salad plate or a side plate to use as your main plate, and you use the plate that your entree is served on as the serving platter. So rather than thinking, oh, I'm going to eat all this, you serve yourself, and that way it's easier to save the rest, or it's easier to share too. Thanks, Mickey. All right, so here's some other ideas, and we can keep sharing in the chat. These are some words to look for. We want to, you know, we've talked about avoiding some of those unhealthy fats that might come from fried food. So baked or steamed, sometimes it might say healthy or lighter choice. Broiled is another good word to look for. Low fat or fat free, whole grain or whole wheat, just like we look for in the grocery store. Looking for things that are grilled or made with vegetable or olive oil, and sometimes they might be categorized under light or diet healthy choices. Just because a menu categorizes it like that doesn't mean for sure it's healthy, but it might be a good indicator that something there might be a good choice. I like preparing before I go out, looking at the menu, kind of having an idea if I can for what I'm going to get, so I'm not overwhelmed when I get there, and then I can kind of have a plan. And the other option is what Ramona said before, eat before you go out. So if you're going to a place you really know you're not going to have a healthy choice and you don't want anything, you can always eat ahead of time and maybe just get, you know, an iced tea with the group, or even have most of your meal at home and just have a small appetizer or something when you get out. So here's some possible swaps when we're looking at a different meal. So if our original meal is a double burger or cheeseburger with large fries and a large soda, we could make it a single cheeseburger with small fries and unsweetened tea, or even a chicken sandwich with small fries and unsweetened tea. So we're getting smaller portions, we're changing the drink, we're changing the size. Different pizza options, rather than a stuffed crust with all the cheese and all the meat, the processed meat, we could do just a regular crust with veggies on it, or a thin crust with veggie pizza, and maybe even ask for light cheese. Taco salad in the shell with all the fixings. We might want to change some of the fixings or change the meat to chicken. Keep the toppings like the sour cream on the side, add only what you need. Oftentimes they add a lot. Or maybe we just take out the shell or don't eat the shell completely. That's another good option for that. And then if we're looking at like Chinese food, maybe we would normally have sweet and sour chicken over white rice, and that's often fried chicken. We might want sauteed chicken, and we might get something over brown rice, or maybe replace it with some shrimp or some. So we can do a lot of swaps for this takeout stuff. So just start to think about what you can ask for. Oftentimes we don't know unless we ask in the restaurant. So don't be afraid to ask. The worst they can say is no, right? And I'm sure that whatever you're asking for, that server has been asked for something stranger in the past. Here's some portion size. Leo's hungry now. Hopefully for some vegetables. No. So you can ask for half or child size items, the size of the items, the side size, sharing, or to go box, just like I think we went over most of these already, like Tammy said. Okay, so we're going to go into our final activity here. And these are healthy alternatives for meals or snacks. So you guys are going to be put in the spotlight here. So I'm going to show you a meal or snack, and I want you to think about how you might revamp it to be a little healthier. Yeah, Ramona, senior meal, that's a great option too. So our first one is a breakfast. We have sausage and cheese croissant breakfast sandwich with hash browns and orange juice. So that's going to be about almost our whole sodium intake for the day in one meal. So we want to change that, right? Because we've gone through 4 of these classes. We know better than that now. What do we do instead? Any ideas? No hash browns. Yep, you might just eliminate the hash browns. That's great, Leo. What else? Yeah. Have some coffee and tea instead of the orange juice, maybe some fresh fruit instead. Instead of the hash browns, eat just eggs maybe instead of all the sausage and cheese, because we know, yeah, the egg sandwich might have a lot of, the bread might have a lot of sodium. Change the bread type to whole grain. I assume that's, yeah, Franklin, that's probably where you're going. Egg white will take out a lot of the saturated fat, correct? Good call. These are all great ideas. I know that we've talked about adding some veggies in there in the past too, right? We've already said that. So let's see what we recommended. A veggie breakfast sandwich on a whole grain English muffin with sweet potato home fries and an orange fruit cup. So a lot of the things you talked about are right here. And you guys made it even better. But sometimes we want some of that potato or something on the side, so that's an option. But yeah, 421 total sodium, so less than half of the original. Less salty, more tasty. Okay, now your time for your morning snack. What do we do if we don't want a honey bun? Fruit, yep. Definitely some fruit would work. Any other ideas? Kind of a sweet vanilla yogurt. Yep, we could do that.
Have your vegetables or fruit instead of the sticky bun.
Right, definitely. Not only would you be getting your decreasing your sodium and your added sugar, but you'd be upping your potassium too. Nuts. Yeah. All right, so these are all good examples. We're banana, 1 milligram of sodium. Yep, or you could do half the sticky bun. I'm all for that, Leo. If you want that sticky bun, just take half maybe. That's a good step. All right, what's next? Lunchtime. We could have a turkey sandwich with a side salad and pickle, which is almost 2,000 milligrams of total sodium. What might we do differently here? No pickle, yeah, because we know that pickles have a lot of sodium. That's a great suggestion, Tammy.
Swap the white bread for whole wheat bread.
Whole wheat bread, perfect.
Use
Where else
lemon
might-
for your salad dressing
Yes.
instead of a salad dressing.
Yeah, because salad dressing also probably has a lot of that sodium that we're getting in the salad or in the salad too. Yep. So turkey sandwich with a side salad and cucumber slices, and you see that salt-free dressing of some variety. We can cut down our sodium to 668. And look at all those veggies instead of that cheese on that turkey sandwich. Ramona, we're going to aim for 1,500 milligrams or less, generally. Afternoon snack, we could reach for those potato chips. Maybe we don't want to. What do we do instead? I've already
Get
heard a
those
lot of these.
veggies.
More veggies. I think
Your
you guys
snap
got this
peas.
down. Fruit,
Yep.
maybe some unsalted nuts, plain air pop popcorn. Yep, that's a great one. So I think you guys have a lot in your hip pocket for snacks now. So let's take it to dinner. We can have a chicken with some boxed macaroni and cheese and frozen veggies, which have been salted, and then we can get most of our sodium for the day.
Make your own mac and cheese to control the salt intake.
Yep, you could prepare your own food. You can control it. Have a healthy grain instead of maybe the mac and cheese. Okay, and for the sake of time, I'm just going to show you. So you guys got this. I love it. We had that answer, chicken with the homemade mac and cheese and frozen veggies without salt added, and we are down to 421 just from doing that. And look, I think maybe they snuck in some veggies into that homemade mac and cheese. So you can do that too. All right, so I don't think we have a whole lot of time for discussion, but I want you guys to just think about this for yourselves. What ideas for food sounded good to you, and what will make you more confident? So think about what of these changes you're going to take with you today. It's a good idea to try to write down some goals. So if you're the one who reaches for the chips in the afternoon, maybe you prepare some veggie snacks like we talked about, or maybe it's when you eat out, you're going to do half portions, something like that. Think about what you can take with you, what would make you more confident. Remember physical activity, we didn't get to talk about it, but super, super important. 30 minutes each day. They're recommending, I usually say 150, but 180 is even better, especially for bringing down blood pressure. So try to work up to that. We try not to have try to prevent having 2 days in a row without being active. And that's what I got. So we went right to one. We had some great discussion. It took us a lot of time to talk, but I loved it because you guys contributed so much. If you guys loved these 4 sessions, come back for the next 4 or tell your friends to join us. And thank you so much for coming today. Don't hesitate to reach out to me or Nikki with any follow-up questions. And this recording will be available on our YouTube channel. So be sure to check that out too. Thanks so much for coming, everyone. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you.